Welcome back. If you are new to our channel, welcome. In this channel, we profile, explore and discuss many topics related to countries, places and people around the world. If that interests you, please consider subscribing. Today we are going to explore Venezuela, officially Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, land of grace and beauty. Venezuela is in northern part of South America. It borders the Caribbean Sea, Atlantic Ocean, Brazil, Guyana and Columbia. Venezuela is a beautiful country, but unfortunately it's in the middle of socio-economical and political crisis. We will look at some of the details later on the video. Now let's look at the flag. This is Venezuela's flag. Yellow represents the wealth of the country, while blue stands for courage, loyalty, perseverance, justice, as well as the ocean that separates Venezuela from Spain. The red point is the bloodshed of the patriot who fought for the country's independence. 7 out of the 8 stars represent the 7 provinces that signed the Independence Act in 1811. The 8th star was added in 2006 to honor the national hero Simon Bolivar. Next, coat of arms. The shield in the middle is divided in the colors of national flag. The wreath represents the union of the 20 states and the wealth of the nation. The weapons with the national flag tied in a branch of laurel symbolizes triumph in war. The wild horse that runs free symbolizes the independence and freedom. Above the shield are 2 cornucopias indicating the agricultural wealth of the country. The shield is flanked by an olive branch and a palm leaf tied in a ribbon that has the colors of national flag. How are we doing so far? Next, we are going to look at the physical geography. Venezuelan landscape include stretches of Andes mountain ranges, huge area of rainforest, fertile plains, miles of Caribbean shoreline, and even a small desert. Venezuela covers the area of over 900,000 square kilometers. It is the 32nd largest country. The Orinoco River and the mountain ranges divide the country into 4 different areas. The Maracaibo lowland in the northwest is a dry wilderness and agricultural land home to Lake Maracaibo, the largest lake in Venezuela. This is where you can witness the unusual meteorological phenomenon called Catatumbo lightning. This only happens where Catatumbo River meet Lake Maracaibo. On average, the lightning strikes 150 nights a year, 9 hours a day, and 16 to 40 times per minute. That's amazing, isn't it? The northwestern Andes mountains and the highlands stretches from southwest of the Maracaibo basin across the northern Venezuela. It is home to Pico Bolivar, the highest point in Venezuela. The central Orinoco plains between the Merida Range and the Orinoco River covers third of the country. Home to many rivers, Orinoco is the longest and most important river in Venezuela. Guyana Highland in the southeast covers more than half of the country. The elevation is about 3,500 meters, home to world highest waterfall, Angel Fall. The water plunges 807 meters in a single drop to the ground. The total height of the fall is 979 meters. This wild and largely unexplored area rich in mineral resources. Venezuela is one of the 17 mega diverse countries in the world. Some 23% of reptiles and 50% of amphibians are endemic to Venezuela. Venezuelan conservation effort has been crippled by current crisis though. Venezuelan territory also includes many islands in the Caribbean Sea. Venezuela has territorial dispute with Colombia over maritime territories of Guajira Peninsula in the Gulf of Venezuela. Venezuela also claims 2/3 of Guyana. Venezuela is located within the tropics, so mostly hot and humid year round. It experiences two seasons, rainy season from June to October and dry season from November to May. Hottest months are May to September and the coldest month is January, averaging between 2 to 13 degrees Celsius. However, the temperatures varies with elevation. Coastal and lowland area are hot year-round. Caracas, the capital, has an average temperature of 22 degrees Celsius year-round. We will only look at the important timeline in Venezuela's history. Venezuela's original inhabitants started the settlement as early as 1500 BC. The Timoto-Cuica people are highly developed. They established pre-planned permanent villages surrounded by irrigated terraced fields. They also stored water in tanks. Christopher Columbus saw Venezuela on his third voyage, at least the area where Venezuela is now. The early explorers named the area Venezuela. In Spanish, it means Little Venice because the native houses were built in a lake on stilts, like Venice. Spain started colonization and coffee plantation in 16th century and imported slaves to work in them. Venezuela was in the center of independence movement in the early part of 18th century, led by Francisco de Miranda, and he claimed independence on July 5, 1811, making the first Spanish colony in the South America to declare independence. However, Spain was able to get control of most of the region due to local rivalry, earthquake, and Miranda's arrest and death in Spanish jail. Simón Bolívar took up a fight for freedom and tried to establish republic a few times before succeeding in 1823, forming Gran Colombia, uniting what are right now Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, and Ecuador. In 1830, Venezuela separated from Gran Colombia and became an independent country with José Antonio Pras as first president. First half of the 20th century, Venezuela was dominated by 5 successive military rulers. The discovery of oil and becoming the world's largest exporter of oil in 1920 made Venezuela rich in Latin America. However, the wealth didn't reach all of its citizens. Most lived in poverty. Fast oil money led to lack of development in agriculture and other types of production. The democracy was restored in 1958, but the power struggle between the Federalist and the Conservative continued. It is known as the Federal War. It lasted 5 years, the biggest war and the bloodiest civil war since the independence. In the late 70s, oil revenue declined. By the late 80s, it was cut in half. This resulted in high inflation, elimination of social program, and employment, which triggered riots known as El Caracos. Strikes and protests continue to be part of everyday life of Venezuelan. Corruption, bank failure, and loan default plunged Venezuela through the mid-90s. By the end of 1998, 2/3 of Venezuelans were living in poverty. Drug trafficking and crime had increased, and Colombian guerrillas or the mafias had expanded their operation into Venezuela. This brings us to the end of the millennia, and we will leave history here and let's go check out Venezuelan people and their lives.
People and culture.
Venezuela is among the most urbanized countries in Latin America. The vast majority of Venezuelans live in the cities in the northern region within 100 kilometers of the coast. Caracas is the capital and the largest city. Metropolitan population is just over 5 million. Second largest city is Maracaibo. It is considered an oil capital. Metropolitan population is closer to 5 million. Valencia is the third largest city. Metro population is about 2 million people. Caracas is not a safe city to visit right now. Have a high crime rate due to current socio-economic climate. Venezuelans are made up of variety of ethnicity. Majority of them are Moreno, the current generation of Native American and European parents. Whites are the second largest group. About 500,000 indigenous people of 40 different tribes live in southern part of Venezuela. Most Venezuelans are monolingual Spanish speakers, but many languages are spoken in Venezuela. The constitution recognizes more than 30 indigenous languages. English is the most widely spoken foreign language in business and higher education. Most Venezuelans are Christians, primarily Roman Catholics. Venezuelan culture is a blend of indigenous and Spanish custom with a touch of Caribbean and Andean influence. Venezuelans are often described as warm, welcoming, fun-loving, and easygoing people. Most of them are united by the shared desire for fairness and equality. This embodies their national hero, Simón Bolívar. Venezuelans usually eat their largest meal in the early afternoon. Many go home to eat lunch with their families. At night, they eat light supper. Arepas are popular in Venezuela. It is a thick corn tortilla stuffed with cheese and variety of shredded meats and other filling. These are popular everywhere. A popular drink is called chicha andina, made from rice and corn flour. Venezuelan coffee is excellent too. More than 6 million Venezuelans has been driven out of the country by hyperinflation, violence, and shortage of food and medication. Most of them are educated and professional people. This is one of the biggest brain drain in recent history. Now let's check out the last section of this video, the economy. Venezuela has some of the world's largest proven oil deposits as well as huge amount of coal, iron ore, bauxite and gold. Yet, many Venezuelans live in poverty. Economic and political crises have brought Venezuela to near collapse. Venezuelan economy is in crisis. Some of the problem go back a long time, as we learned in the history. But the last decade, it is due to political uncertainty, corruption, hyperinflation, collapse of banking system, increased government spending, and debt. Venezuela owes over $100 billion to foreign creditors. Venezuela's economic growth had been deeply negative for the past 5 years. Venezuelan economy is dominated by petroleum sector since the 1920s. In recent years, petroleum sector contribute to third of the GDP of 43 billion, 80% of the export, and more than half of the government revenue. Years of lack of investment in the infrastructure and the recent US sanction of Venezuelan oil sector have crippled the petroleum sector. Venezuelan currency Bolivar has been devalued so much, people are given up on the Bolivar and adapted to US dollars. They receive their salaries and pay for everything in dollar now. Staggering 90% of Venezuelan people live in less than $3 a day, and 3 out of 4 Venezuelans survive in less than $1 a day in extreme poverty. There might be a slight hope. There is a slight improvement in 2021. The economy expanded slightly for the first time in 7 years. Inflation has been slowing, and there is a newfound optimism in the country. I hope you enjoyed the time with me learning about and exploring Venezuela. Hope you learned something new, and the situation that Venezuela in right now, hope it changes soon. They have been having a hard time for a long time now. It is not the fault of many people. It's the fault of very few. Not too long ago, Colombia was in a similar situation, not exactly same as Venezuela, but financially they were having a very hard time. Now it's doing much better. If you want to learn more about it, please check out my Colombia video in the description. If you are watching this, you must like learning about other countries. So please give me a thumbs up to this video and subscribe to my channel, so we can explore every single country in the world. Thank you for watching. We will meet again in the next video.